We need to move forward. You know, there was an effort that was, or an activity that was done on station just a few days ago, in which an American flag was left on station that flew on STS-1. The crew of this mission of Atlantis brought the flag up, put it on the wall of the space station, and left it there. And they basically left it there as a reminder that the next folks that need to come up to the space station are going to be through the commercial crew program, and they need to retrieve that flag and bring it back home to the United States. So that's the mission we're under. That is what we are trying to accomplish. And in order to do that, we need to have an industry, a commercial industry, that can not only go to ISS and take the flag from ISS and bring it back home to America, we also need to create other destinations within low Earth orbit for this transportation system to be used and create more American flags in orbit. And so that's our overall program plan. And we now will look for feedback from you all if you have any today. And then, of course, we'll be looking for more from through the email process. So I think we'll take questions.
Excellent. I just wanted to let you know we'll start here in the room with any questions. We have 2 microphones on each side. If you could make your way to the microphone, introduce yourself and your affiliation, your company. We'll take questions in the room, and then we'll go to the email questions that we've received. Sir, if you'd like to go ahead and begin.
Instead of taking an American flag to the station, we should have taken the FAR to the station and left it up there. Because that's the only way we're going to change this paradigm. You can't take a traditional approach and expect anything than the traditional results, which has been broken budgets and not fielding any flight hardware. The bottom line is the FAR costs money, lots of money to implement. And if you've been looking at the budgets that we've been getting out of Congress, we don't have the dollars to spare. And as I see these key limitations of the SAAs that you're articulating, I am an attorney, and my name is Mike Gold, by the way, with Bigelow Aerospace, and I just fundamentally disagree with them. I have been working with Space Act agreements since I graduated law school, and please show me the letter of the law, the statutes that articulate these limitations, because I've got a black bag there full of law that says they don't exist. I have spoken to your own attorneys. I have spoken to the GAO, who is the ultimate arbiter of whether you can or cannot use Space Act agreements. And if I could quote law to bring the law into this, we agree with NASA that the agreement's purpose should control whether the services are principally for the agency's direct benefit or use, as is the case here, to support or stimulate a public purpose authorized by the law. This is from the rocket plane Kistler decision of the GAO. As long as the purpose of your program is to support the development of a private sector capability, you can use a Space Act agreement. The GAO said it right here, and I believe your own attorneys would agree with that. So I would love to hear, where is the law backing up these alleged limitations to SAA authority? And before you answer that, if I could close with one last comment. Again, we appreciate everything you and the Commercial Crew Office are trying to do. I know we're all on the same side. And I also appreciate what you're trying to do in regard to removing the cost accounting standards. But to say that the problem with the FAR is limited to the cost accounting standards is a gross oversimplification of what we're dealing with in the FAR. You know, sir, as you just described, it's taken us a month just to go through and even figure out what we're up against. And yes, cost accounting standards are bad, and they definitely need to be altered. But we've got intellectual property laws. We've got competition and subcontracting practices, preferences for rural counties. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And we're never going to be able to get all of them and come up with a functional system that allows you to achieve the objectives that you just stated. And yes, you know, you can try and play with the FAR, but it would be much easier to do the reverse. Take what you want from the FAR, put it into a Space Act agreement. That you can do, because if we try and take the FAR and turn it into something usable, you're just putting lipstick on a pig.
So this is the deputy's job to take that kind of question. So I appreciate your feedback. And believe me, we've discussed, we've had a little bit of these conversations before at the requirements workshops, and I certainly am not a lawyer, so I can't address all the legal points that you'd like to make. But I do think this is the kind of feedback we need. So if you have specific ways that you can work with our legal community and show how we could address those limitations that we have been given by our legal team, the NASA legal community, the OG Office of General Counsel, has handed us those limitations as a program. So we, as a program, we do have two purposes, obviously to develop a commercial system, but also to enable a capability to get our astronauts safely to and from the International Space Station. So if you have a specific way that we could overcome those limitations in a Space Act agreement, I think that would be great. Unfortunately, our General Counsel has not, either they don't agree with you or they're giving us much different direction. So I don't know that we can settle it here, but certainly if you have some specifics, it would be great to get those in writing and we can get those to our folks.
Settle it here, but I met with your attorneys your own attorneys in D.C., the General Counsel, et cetera, last week. I would encourage us to have a forum where we could sit down with your lawyers, with you, now that the plan is out there, and talk about what these limitations really are and what we can and cannot do under an SA context, because I think somewhere there's a miscommunication, because in my meetings with your own attorneys, I don't believe there's any difference of opinion there, as well as the informal conversations we've had with the GAO. So I would encourage us to have that conversation, have it out in the open, because every time we get into a forum like this, there are no attorneys in the room. So let's have that talk.
And this was the opening of that time period where we can do it, because before we were always, as Ed mentioned, our hands were tied in what we could say was, with the restrictions that we were dealing with as we were evaluating these different options of Space Act agreements versus contracts. So, this is exactly the kind of feedback we need to make sure we're not going off on a track that won't be successful.